This episode of the Politics podcast is brought to you by everybody over at patreon.com/JURY. It is where you can support not only this show, but also my other one mic show, Jury. We had our best November ever, and as we reach the end of the calendar year 2015, I want to thank from the bottom of my heart everybody who has supported us. Please go ahead over there and check it out, patreon.com/JURY. Also by The Contender, the game of presidential debate. It is available. I think at this point you can't buy it if you want to buy Christmas, but you can get it for the real holiday season. Yeah, primaries are coming. Everybody's freaking out about politics, and you are going to have the most amazing party game to sate their thirst. Head on over to thecontender.us or follow us on Facebook and Twitter, Contender Game.
Politics, 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 politics.
Christmas. Christmas. Hanukkah's over, so it's just Christmas. Christmas. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Justin Robert Young hosted version of your political gab fest, your political tea party, your political chit-chatteroo. It's called the Politics podcast. My name, as previously noted, is Justin Robert Young. This is a day late. I had a really busy week. I was out in Austin, Texas, shooting some really, really rad stuff that I hopefully everybody who enjoys this show will very much like. But I'm glad that we had to wait. I'm so glad that we didn't do this show when we normally do it on Friday afternoon. Because on Friday afternoon, my friends, we were only just getting the barest whiff of what I would like to right now let you guys know is the only chance that Bernie Sanders has to win the Democratic nomination. Now, spoiler alert, he won't. He's not going to win the Democratic nomination. But if he were going to win the Democratic nomination, he would need to follow the playbook of the person who is polling at the head of the Republican field, and that is Donald Trump. Donald Trump has done very, very well in this election so far by effectively throwing the entire grassroots element of the Republican Party into total chaos. He is openly hostile to GOP leadership. GOP leadership is openly hostile to him. And he's effectively saying, I am not what they want. I am what you want. We're going to have more Trump conversation in a little bit. So I don't want to dwell too much on that. But do me a favor and try to just unpack that idea. Because normally you see elements of the party being the shield of identity. That no matter what, you can say, oh, well, I believe in this party because this party is the uniting thread between people that I like to vote for. However, when you question the party, well, folks, you are pulling a Rowdy Roddy Piper. Just when they got the answers, you keep changing the questions. Bernie Sanders, in my opinion, has run certainly a far more explosive campaign in terms of support than I would have thought he could have as just the independent old coot from Vermont. But he will always hit the glass ceiling if he does not openly attack Hillary Clinton. You can kind of sidestep it. You can say, oh, we're grassroots. But unless his every stump speech is about how she is stealing democracy and how she is the standard bearer for the 1% and how she is exactly the kind of machine that I, crazy old coot Bernie Sanders, am the only person that can possibly fix, then this isn't going to work. Barack Obama was able to do this against Hillary Clinton because he had the idea of history as the catch-all. Why would you vote for her when history is at stake? And so everything else could remain in that box, right? All the nasty elements could remain in that box. Also, he was a better politician than Bernie Sanders, although apparently less good friends with Killer Mike. So here's what happens. Apparently, over the week, there was a vendor for the Democratic National Committee who handles their voter databases. Now, by the way, unless this software company is named Vendor, I am amazed how much their name is not all over all these stories. Nobody is saying, at least easily in headlines, right? In the leads and nut graphs of all these stories about what I'm about to talk about, have not mentioned who the vendor is, or Debbie Wasserman Schultz or Bernie Sanders people or Hillary Clinton's people haven't all been like Cisco, right? They haven't just like said the name of the people that screwed up. Here's what happens. The Democratic National Committee rents a lot of these lists. It's a collection of publicly available data on voter registration, how poor people are, what their gender are, what their ethnicities are. Democratic National Committee then has their own grouping of data that they gather from, being the National Committee for, the Democrats. So they gather all their own information. They augment it to the list that they rent, and then they allow the campaigns to have them, likely for a fee. All of a sudden, the vendor, the V word, the vendor screws up and leaves a firewall. Again, there's so much of this story that I just adore because it is like every 90s television, report about the internet. It's the craze sweeping the nation. Cyberspace, URLs. The internet is here, and your kids know about it. It's like everything. It's like there's a firewall. It's like, okay, yeah. And I know it's not technically incorrect, but I love that, like, that's what everybody has gravitated toward. Not like permissions, not like, that there was, it was stored on separate servers or something, right? It's always a firewall because, like, that in the challenge of writing about any technical article when you're not writing in technical press, like you're not writing in Popular Mechanics, you're just writing in USA Today, is that you have to, like, make people not fall asleep. And so you have to use these big words like firewall. Oh, apparently Ben Franklin says that the vendor is NGPVAN and no one talks about it because it only applies to politics. So it's not a big name. It's not like Cisco screwed up. It's, something that's probably more interesting if you just call them vendor. Although, hey, guess what? I'm putting you on blast, NGPVAN. Get it. This is your problem, homie. You're the one affecting democracy. Let's get back to this. So the firewall comes down. Surely while somebody is using hackertype.org. And they being the Bernie Sanders campaign, all of a sudden now has access to what the Bernie Sanders campaign knows is not their own, but they claim to not know exactly whose it is. They do 20 queries over 45 minutes. And then there is a dispute on whether or not they downloaded stuff. According to the Bernie Sanders campaign, they knew this was a software glitch. They knew that they weren't supposed to be looking at it, but because they had previously complained to the DNC about another computer vendor, for these databases. They wanted to prove what they were able to do so they could show the DNC. This is the Bernie Sanders version. Then we have the Clinton campaign version, which, as you might imagine, was not quite as sympathetic to the Bernie Sanders position. They said that this was effectively a hack job, right? That Bernie Sanders' campaign had gone hog wild, actual quote. That they were a kid in a candy store, actual quote. That they were downloading as much as they possibly could before, I don't know, some window of time evaporated. Which is really the only weird part about this story from the Clinton campaign perspective is like, well, yeah, but like what imaginary window did they have? And also, like, if you were going to download stuff, like, there's easier ways to do it. If even just, scrolling and taking pictures and then manually entering it yourself. So, in comes what should be the impartial third-party referee between these two campaigns. And this is very important because we are on the eve of the third and final primary debate for the Democratic National Committee. All right. So before we get into it and the DNC's actions, let's also understand this. We are over a month away from the first caucus. Okay? We are more than that by about a week away from the first primary. And really, the first time that Bernie Sanders is in a must-win situation. And we are done with the debates after tonight, after Saturday. We're done. It's over. Finado. Adios. Get out of here. Why? Also, why are we doing this on Saturday? Live from New Hampshire. It's Saturday night. Because nobody's going to watch these. So if you are a Bernie Sanders campaigner, if you are a Bernie Sanders supporter, if you are somebody for whom is deeply suspicious about Hillary Clinton and believe that Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the head of the DNC, who has been a Clinton supporter for a very, very long time, back to when Bill was president, that this is something that you would deem as suspicious, then yes, you would believe that the DNC is tilted the board against Hillary Clinton, because it would be really nice to maybe have a few debates, IDK, after people start voting, after this is not just a totally media-driven affair where you can correlate the number of headlines based on the number of support, where you can actually see the rubber meet the road and the campaigns actually make substantive changes in their strategies. It'd be nice to maybe have some kind of debate to sort of guide that process along. No, DNC shut it down. We don't want anybody landing any hands on Hillary before she gets to the general. In fact, what you are going to see tonight on this Democratic debate is effectively Hillary Clinton just start talking to independent voters. It's done. It's over, Johnny. Which is why this computer situation actually, as much as it's a bullshit tempest in a teapot, actually kind of matters a little bit more. Because Debbie Wasserman Schultz immediately suspended Bernie Sanders' campaign from accessing the DNC voter databases. So what happens? Bernie Sanders, his campaign, his supporters, and a lot of the unions that have endorsed him start to go ape poop. And by ape poop, I mean, like, this ends with a federal lawsuit getting filed for immediate injunctive relief. So Bernie Sanders can have access to those databases so he can continue fundraising. Bernie Sanders has made, his campaign rather, has made the claim that this could cost them up to $600,000 by losing the most relevant data for their mailers, emailing, decision-making as far as where they're going to target people in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, the early primary states. However, what really has become the interesting political pawn in this situation is Debbie Wasserman Schultz being brought in to the fold. So now you have somebody that Bernie Sanders' campaign can attack that represents everything that he should be attacking Hillary Clinton for, but doesn't want to. But he can do this with abandon. And he did. His campaign did. They went after Debbie Wasserman Schultz. MoveOn.org started a petition to have her immediately return the Bernie Sanders campaign back to their rightful position, in their opinion, to access those voter rolls. And last night, they capitulated. But what is important here, if Bernie Sanders wants any last-ditch effort to win his party's nomination, is in this debate, he needs to put the system on trial. He has got to make Hillary Clinton either look fake or defensive of the situation that has already been laid out. I believe that Bernie Sanders should challenge Hillary Clinton to further debates. That if the DNC won't do it, we can do it on a talk show. We can do it in a box. We can do it with a fox. I want to debate you, Bernie, I am. But effectively, here is what you want. If you're Bernie Sanders, you want your supporters to be thinking of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who, by the way, was my congresswoman when I lived in South Florida. I remember Debbie Wasserman Schultz running for Congress when I was in middle school. Let's go ahead and take a look. All right, imagine this is the debate tonight, right before we cut live to the parking lot where we see a limo pulling up. My God, King, who could be in that limo? We find out after the break. Now smash cut. We're looking at the empty arena. We are about to start this debate. All of a sudden, here comes the music. Ladies and gentlemen, your chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Cameron, I would ask any Sanders supporters or anyone who is formulating an opinion about the actions that we've taken to put the shoe on the other foot. If it were the Clinton campaign that accessed the proprietary information of the Sanders campaign, you can be darn sure, understandably, that his supporters would expect that we would take the exact same action that we are taking, that is based on our memorandum of understanding, our agreement with each campaign, to ensure that the integrity of their information...
Oh, son of a bitch! Yeah, man. She needs to be... effectively, if you're Bernie Sanders, you need your people believing and understanding that she is going to put Bernie Sanders in the Kiss My Ass Club. This is an absolute must for Bernie Sanders. He's got to have a villain. He's got to, and it can't just be the system. It can't be the 1/2 or the 1% or the 1%. It can't be that, right? It's got to be the DNC. It's got to be they are stopping us. They are supposed to represent us. Instead, they are representing her. This is the biggest problem. And we're going to get to the fact that this is very important in New Hampshire, that he make his stand in New Hampshire, because if he does not win the New Hampshire primary, it is curtains. I mean, it's curtains now. Spoiler alert. But it is definitely curtains for him if he loses in New Hampshire. We also had a Republican primary. They actually do those in primetime, novel concept. To be honest with you, with all the schedule stuff, I have not seen it yet. However, I will watch it. We'll have more thoughts. The one thing I did notice was that it seems like in these debates, Trump gets a negative reaction from some of the crowd in a way that he didn't before. Ted Cruz seems to be on the ascendancy. Marco Rubio seems to be somebody that is coalescing, at least in terms of how the moderators are treating them, that they seem to be coalescing on the people that the media wants to focus on. Because I do believe that the media is sensitive to the idea that they are giving too much attention to Donald Trump. And everybody else, I mean, like, it's hard to even look at these polls in any kind of serious way when people just won't drop out. And we're definitely in, it's about time to drop out. I thought Rand Paul had his most, from what I saw, had his most interesting debate so far. He needed, in hindsight, I think if he could have run his campaign as the Republican Bernie Sanders and just gone after, speaking truth to power and just embrace some of the more fringy elements that his dad did so well, instead of trying to tack toward the middle, it would have been a better decision for him. It's only a matter of time before he drops out. And I think we're going to see a lot, before, I think we're now entering into a very interesting phase where people who have campaign debt can start to say to people who need early endorsements, hey, it matters to you when I drop out. So what do you say we strike a deal? You pay some of this campaign debt and I drop out before Iowa so you can have momentum, as opposed to me dropping out after Iowa when I can, play the lottery ticket and hope that I do better than I think I'm going to do. So we'll have more on the GOP debate next week, but that is my snap judgment. I didn't watch the GOP debate because I was in Austin. I was hanging out with your friend and mine, my co-host on Weird Things and Night Attack, the inimitable Brian Brushwood. One of my favorite things to do in life, and really the backbone of the Night Attack podcast and NSFW show before it and BB Live show before that, is basically I like making Brian laugh. Brian laughing to me is something that I find very funny, and I like to do it a lot. So as you could imagine, we're shooting this stuff. There are all these they're VR videos for Discovery VR. More info on that when we have it. But we're spending a lot of time in the car together, spending a lot of time hanging out. And I kind of formulated this idea. We saw a liquor store. Liquor store was called Wiggy's. Wiggy. Wiggy's a funny name. I like Wiggy. And I'm like, well, you want to know what? I think a lot of when people, because now, and this is happening, I'm sure it's happening to you, you try to keep good humor about politics, and all of a sudden, it's like at a certain point, it's already happening. We're well past the halfway point of the metamorphosis from everybody having good humor and perspective about politics to now everybody on my side is Jesus Christ riding a motorcycle, and everybody on the other side is Hitler in an Ed Hardy shirt. So I feel like people aren't appreciating how funny Donald Trump is, because now it's like, oh, wait, he's literal Hitler. So I have what I am considering to be a plugin for your brain. You go into Chrome, you got all these plugins. You got like TweetDeck and Sunrise and Wunderlist. You got a great amount of plugins, right? Here are plugins for your brain. And I would suggest you install it as soon as I tell you about it. Because I have, and it's made my life already better. And I wouldn't consider me being worried about Donald Trump to be something that I am afflicted by. It's the Wiggy plugin. Whenever Donald Trump says anything, I want you to imagine this music. I also want you to apply the Wiggy voice. So here is a few Donald Trump quotes as filtered by the Wiggy plugin. make America great again. I'm Wiggy. We don't win anymore. When Wiggy's president, we're going to win so much you'll get bored of winning. I'm Wiggy. I'll build a wall and I'll get Mexico to pay for it. I'm Wiggy. You gotta make sure that you say the name afterward or else it doesn't work. He's a war hero because he was captured. Wiggy likes the people that weren't captured. I'm Wiggy. We're going to build a big, beautiful wall. It'll have a big, beautiful door in the middle of it. I'm Wiggy. There we go. The Wiggy filter, ladies and gentlemen. Please, please, please install it in your brain immediately. Let's go into the most popular portion of our program. This is what everybody is talking about. The only way for, you got the data ignorant, you got the data intensive, but folks, we here on the Politics podcast are the only data erect, because we are going to bring you what we do every single week, ladies and gentlemen, the world famous, the iconic, the show-stopping, the glamorous Politics exclusive. Make sure to tip the guy who squirts soap in your hands before you can leave the bathroom. Cash out those $100 bills to ones, because this is
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
a pole dance. Damn. This pole dance comes to you from the Boston Herald, surveying 410 likely voters from New Hampshire. It's got a 4.8 margin of error. They live free, but the way these guys primary, they're gonna die hard. Working the daytime shift. Listen, honey, your makeup's a mess. Maybe you should just take the day off. Come back in a couple weeks once you got your life together. It's Martin O'Malley, 3.5%. But as always, in New Hampshire, we don't just have one superstar on the pole. No. We've got twin headliners. We put two poles in so you could see them both at the same damn time. Statistically, in a dead heat, Hillary Clinton with 46%. She puts the bossy pants in pantsuit. But leading, technically, is a man who is as passionate about defending the middle class as he is busting open that ass. Ladies and gentlemen, your leader in this pole dance, Bernie Sanders! And of course, we have our own poll, the Politics poll. This is Poll Corner here, folks. Of course, Alec is our PX3 pollster. You can vote in this week's poll. We do it every single week. bit.ly/politics3. These are great, man. We are actually collecting legit data, and Alex is great about processing it. We'll release all of this publicly, of course. Voting, all the listeners, man, you guys have been voting in it. We have separate ones for Democrat and Republican. All of our Republican listeners, 36%. Rand Paul is leading. Pretty interesting. Marco Rubio is right behind him at 18%. He seems to be the only the most popular non-libertarian. And then meanwhile, we have Bernie Sanders at a commanding lead of 63% on the Democratic side. Shocker. Bernie Sanders won an internet poll. Of course, we always look for the word that defined the week in politics on either side. We have from the GOP side, baller, and from the Democratic side, perfunctory. Oh, I love it. I love it. Perfunctory. Which, listen, that was really, really, really descriptive, like right up until on Friday when people are filing federal lawsuits against the DNC. Again, vote this week, bit.ly/politics, and then the number 3. Again, bit.ly/politics, and the number 3. And now we get to our mail. JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com is where you email in. Put politics in the subject line. We've gotten a lot of feedback on the contender going out to Iowa in the next month. So if you are from Iowa, you are familiar with the caucus process, you know where the hot spots are that we need to be at, then please email in. Dallas wrote in after offering to help us. After the most recent GOP debate, I think it's clear who should call it quits. John Kasich, Carly Fiorina, Rand Paul, and Ben Carson. Yes, Ben Carson. After having been gone from the news for so long, I think his campaign has finally been sunk. A combination of lack of policy depth and a total lack of any foreign policy has finally sunk his campaign, in my opinion. What are your thoughts? Will we see Ben Carson folding anytime soon? I love that also he's been out of the news for so long. It's been like 3 weeks since he was the number one, since he was leading polls in Iowa. Like, it just shows you how fast we go. I'm not saying you're wrong, because I do think you're right, but it is kind of amazing that it's like, oh my God, remember back in the day when Ben Carson was leading? That's crazy. Am I right? And it was like, less than a month ago. It was insane. It was like Halloween. And he was just going crazy. So here we go. Ben Carson, or here, let's go. We'll do Ben Carson last. John Kasich, obs. Carly Fiorina. I still think there could be a summer for Carly Fiorina because she is the only woman candidate. I think that she is more palatable to some of the later states. She's more palatable to Nevada and Florida and some of those like Super Tuesday states. I would not be shocked if she stayed in at least till Super Tuesday. Also, she's rich, so she can always cover her own nut. And then Rand Paul. Rand Paul's done. He's checked out. In fact, there was a question on whether or not he was going to be on the main stage for this week's debate. And he was like, listen, if I'm not on the main stage, I'm dropping out. And so he was on the main stage. He didn't drop out. But Rand Paul's going to be gone. Ben Carson. And he put it so eloquently. Will Ben Carson be folding anytime soon? Will Ben fold? Will he find himself 6 a.m. day after Christmas wondering about his campaign? Is Ben Carson indeed a brick? And is he drowning slowly? I think, yeah. Everybody needs more than one punch. If Donald Trump has done anything immaculately, is that we aren't still talking about the same thing we were first talking about with him. Barack Obama did this perfectly as well. It was always something else. Every week had a message. Every 2 weeks had a message. So he's not still screaming about the wall, right? He probably mentions it in his stump speech, but what gets him attention, what he leads with, is something different. Now, for many people, it's, I will ban all Muslims, I'm Wiggy! So, that's repugnant. What he's saying is repugnant, but it's different. Ben Carson never really had a punch beyond, hey, I'm very, very interesting to evangelical voters, and I'm not a raving lunatic. So really all he needed to do was be religious and not be crazy, or not be yelly, right? Not be off-putting. So, I mean, I think Ben Carson's pretty much done if he doesn't win in Iowa, or he doesn't play very strongly in Iowa. Like, if he's not a strong number two to either Donald Trump or somebody else, I think he's done, because he's not also a big New Hampshire candidate. Which is odd, man, because again, that dude like 3 weeks ago was leading the polls. It would be a total shock if Ben Carson couldn't at least do something about it. Doing something with that heat, rather. Ernest writes, hey, Justin, longtime listener, first-time writer. As a black man in the military, I don't vote. That might sound odd, but no party truly has my interest in mind. The Democrats are pro-middle and lower class, but they don't protect the military as well as Republicans do. The Republicans don't give two shits about the middle or lower class, but always ensure that I will get paid and taken care of as long as I am a serviceman, at least until I get out. I always get looms when I say I don't vote. I don't know if looms is the right word. Like, you know, if you're knitting on a loom. You get looming glares, maybe. Especially that I didn't vote for Obama because he was a black guy. Will there ever be a candidate for us? And I assume us is representative of black military men. No. Short answer. I mean, you know, I don't know, Alan West, maybe, if you're looking for, you know, a black guy on the Republican, a very pro-military black guy in the Republican Party, you know, or somebody. I mean, Jim Webb was the Democratic ticket's answer to somebody that was strong on military, you know, but that traditionally, like, this calculus is there for a reason. And it's not because one party is right or wrong, right? The calculus on these parties are done because that is what strategically, as a national strategy, gets people out to vote. Here's another thing that people wonder about, right? Like, the Republican Party. The Republican Party is their most important race is for the presidency. The Democratic Party, their most important race is for the presidency. But really what they do, by and large, 90% of their job is to make decisions on who will run in every other office, right? They have a whole system of delegation, both of them, to find out who your city councilman's going to be, who your local a state representative in your state house is going to be, who your governor is going to be, who your congressperson is going to be. That's 90% of what they do. So when you're crafting a party strategy as opposed to a campaign strategy, you are effectively creating the one-size-fits-all way that you could just have Rando McGirt step in and not know jack about bull, and as long as he follows that one-size-fits-all strategy for the Republicans, pro-military, pro-wealth accumulation, and pro-religious attention, religious rights, right? And then on the Democratic side, it is civil rights, the idea of fairness, right? Or you know, government programs. The government is here for you. And we will correct what society has neglected. That's basically just the strategy. So it's like, you know, Ernest, what I would say is do yourself a favor and look more into the candidates' positions. Because especially for presidential races, you'll see people deviate a lot. In the case of Donald Trump, you have, you know, complete deviation. You know, he's not using any talking points from the GOP, except for the fact that, like, he has spent more time talking about the Bible than he probably ever has in his entire life, because evangelicals are important in Iowa. But yeah, I would say look more into the candidates and not necessarily the parties, or, like, you know, Republicans be like and Democrats be like, you know, because yes, they are definable and they need to be, but it's not necessarily, you know, one for one at all times. Thank you for writing in, though. Justin, writes, about Kanye West running as a Democrat. I know you were joking and probably know this, but Kanye West might be as much of a Republican as Donald Trump. Now hear me out. He had his run-in with W. Bush for hating black people, true. But he's talked about being a Republican in interviews and his rap lyrics about it. I'll never let my son have it. This is Kanye West lyrics that I'm now. Oh my God! I just realized I can do my favorite thing ever. I can do my favorite, my Bob Lee, Bill O'Reilly, white guy reading rap lyrics. Oh my God! I didn't realize this until right now. Oh geez, I'm so excited. This is my favorite thing ever. Okay, so periodically, Bill O'Reilly had this thing, and this is more in the early 2000s, where he was like going back and forth with Ludacris about like how it's bad for the kids to be listening to rap music, and he would always, in his great Bill O'Reilly, hectoring demeanor, read like, "Move, bitch, get out the way, get out of the way, get out the way. I'm DUI, hardly ever caught sober. So if you are doing the speed limit, you better pull the bleep over." I loved it. Bob Lee does. He's got a few amazing clips out there too, where he's like reading lyrics about topics in sports or people referencing athletes in rap songs. So here we go. This is my best hectoring, out of touch, white guy recitation of these Kanye West lyrics. "And I'll never let my son have an ego. He'll be nice to everyone wherever we go. I mean, I might even make him a Republican so everyone know he love white people." Back to Justin's email. "He's enraptured by Ben Carson's presidential bid, and furthermore, the Kardashians and the Jenners are all Republicans. Their affiliation and power structure is strongly tied to the GOP. It's funny that you immediately went that direction, because I've been convinced for months it would be Limbaugh versus West in the 2020 GOP primaries." I mean, again, the reason why I would think that Kanye West would run as a Democrat is that his base fits the calculus of one party more than he fits the other one. Now, not beyond Kanye West to A, run for president, B, run for president in the party that is least beneficial to him. But I do think that in terms of benefit, I don't think there's really much of a question that it would probably be the Democratic Party. That would be the one that would most embrace him. I mean, like, again, this is a party that got mainstream fawning press about Run the Jewels' Killer Mike interviewing Bernie Sanders. Like, that's the party that you want to be in if you're Kanye West. That's the one that you want to do. Now, does Kanye West have the stamina to go shake hands and eat corn dogs in Iowa? Absolutely not. It would be a hot mess of a disaster, but I would be very, 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 very excited to see it. If you would like to email the show, it is justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Also, make sure you go ahead and vote in our poll this week, bit.ly/Politicsx3. That is POLITICS number 3. You can buy The Contender at thecontender.us. Big, and we went more into it on the Kickstarter. If you back the Kickstarter, man, we've had a hell of a week there. Just go ahead and check the Kickstarter page. There's all sorts of stuff there that you probably want to read up on. For everybody who's gotten it, I'm so excited. Please, please, please email, put up on social media the pictures of you guys playing it. Let me know how you enjoy it at Contender Game, or just search for Contender Game on Facebook. Music provided by Valesco and Trop Killers and Incompetech.com. And you can follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. It's a fun time all around.
Politics, 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 politics.
But until next time, friends. Some politics talk about podcasts. Some podcasts talk about politics. But this is the only show where we talk about politics. See you next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.